everyone. Today we're going to be covering setting up a PHP environment. So, first thing, we're not going to go get too deep into it, but we'll talk a little bit about what PHP is. And simply put, PHP is the code that is being compiled and interpreted on your server. When we open a web page, it contacts the server that the web page content is held on. That server processes the PHP code and then relays it back to our browser. Think of it as a book. The server is the paper that the words are printed on, but the PHP is the actual text. Most servers that you use, including the one we will be using, already have PHP set up on them using a direct modal interface. So there's nothing we need to do personally to get that server to interact with our PHP. If this is not the case, or you are interested in learning more about how the interaction between PHP and the server works, you can find more here at this link. But for the purpose of this article, we're going to be assuming that the server you are using is already set up. So the first thing is a web server. What is it? Web server is a computer system that processes requests via HTTP. So this is the foundation of data communication across the entire World Wide Web. Its primary function is to store, process, and deliver web pages to clients via the web browser. These files can be HTML, documents, CSS style sheets, JavaScript files, or in our case, PHP. So, say someone tries to visit our website. Their browser will make a request to our server using HTTP, and the server will either respond with the web content or an error message if it is unable to do so. Furthermore, while the server's primary function is to serve content, it's also able to receive and store data from the clients. This is especially relevant to us because one of PHP's primary uses is to both relay stored information from the server to the client and relay information from the client and then store it on the web server inside of a database. So if we're trying to develop a site or just test some code, it doesn't exactly make sense to pay for a hosted environment or to have our site public. Therefore, what we do is we set up a local web server on our local computer, and this server will store all of our files and style sheets, and we'll call our local web server directly when we open a web browser. This way we can interact completely locally while still simulating a live web environment. So, next topic is databases. So databases are collections of information organized in a way that can be easily accessed, managed, and updated. They store data in the form of tables, making it easier to find relevant information. So one of PHP's most valuable functions is its ability to interact with databases stored on web servers. A database isn't exactly needed in order to set up a PHP environment, but it wouldn't be complete without one. There are quite a few different database management systems out there, but the most popular is MySQL, and that's what we'll be using. So when it comes to installing the different database systems on the server, they each have their own unique steps. But the good news for us is that since we are using MySQL, there are PHP environment packages that will take care of all of this for us. So let's move on to setting up the environment. So XAMPP comes with the Apache web server and the MySQL database management system. And all this can be found here for both Linux and Windows. Let's go ahead and open up that tab right here. So you can see it for Windows, you can see it for Linux, and you can see it for Apple iOS system. So the installation for Windows is pretty foolproof, and instructions for Linux can be found here at this link. I'm not going to go to it because I already have this installed on my computer. So during the setup, since we're just getting started, let's go ahead and stick with the default settings, and that'll have everything you need. So again, I already have XAMPP set up and installed on my computer. Just follow one of those links from the document and install it for the operating system that you're using. Again, it's not complicated, and once it's set up and installed, come back to the video, and then we can move forward. So once it's installed, we'll find an XAMPP folder within our local drive. So I'll go ahead and close these so we can start from scratch here. I installed it on my C drive. You can see the XAMPP folder right here. So let's go ahead and open that up. And then as you can see, there's tons of files There's tons of folders in here, but there's only two that are going to be really relevant to us, this htdocs and the phpMyAdmin. So this htdocs, this is where you're going to store all of your web projects. So say I had a, you know, table builder app, I could create a file in here called table builder, and then when I called it online, that's what it would show up. The other one is phpMyAdmin, and this is where we'll set up our username and password for our server. So before we start any of our web projects, let's go ahead and set up the security on our server. So I already have my folder open. Go ahead and open yours. And from there, we're going to open the config inc.php and a text editor. So here's our config inc PHP file. So if you wanted to set up a password and username to access your web server, you would go ahead and change your username here and your password here. And then you'd set your allow no password to false. I'm not going to set this up. I'm the only one who uses this computer. Doesn't really matter. It saves me time to not do it. But if you were concerned about someone accessing your local server, this is where you would change those settings. So now, in order for us to access a server, we'll need to open a web browser. So go ahead and open a browser. Make sure your Apache and MySQL instances are running. They'll need to be running in order for you to access it, and go localhost. And it should bring you to a page like this. So from here, we're going to go to the phpMyAdmin tab. If you set up your username and password, you'll be prompted to log in, and then you should see this screen. So this is your database. From here, you can create tables, manage data that your PHP can then access. The only thing left to do is create a web project and open it in our browser. So to do this, we're going to open our htdocs file. So let's go back to XAMPP, htdocs, and then let's go ahead and create a folder and call it my project. So new folder, my project. Inside this folder, we're going to create a file and call it index.php. So new, actually, we'll open Atom, file, we'll go new file, and let's go ahead and type some PHP code. So PHP, sorry, need our question mark, PHP. Echo, hello world, and we'll end our PHP command. File, we'll save this as XAMPP, htdocs, my project, index.php. Save. Okay, so now we're ready to test our code. So go back to our web browser, and then in the top bar, we're going to go localhost, my project, index.php. Hello world. All right, there you go. That's all there is to it. We now have successfully created a PHP web environment and tested some code. So while the code is simple, the same process will be used to create all of your projects. All we need to do is save them in our htdocs folder, which represents our local host, and then search that path of the file that we want. That's all there is to it. Thanks for listening.